you came to St. Andrew to teach in 1982.
Yes.
And you've been here 30 years.
31 as a matter of fact this year. Last year I received my 30-year award at award ceremony in November.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Tell us a little about that.
How did I get here in the
How
first
did you
place?
get here, but also the journey?
The journey.
Yes.
When my mother tells me again, and I do recall that I always, the only career I mentioned throughout my childhood years was that I wanted to be a teacher. I come from a family of teachers, so I'm not surprised. But then my choice of history came about a little coincidentally in that I really loved the languages, loved Spanish a lot, and wanted to be a teacher of Spanish. And then the teacher of Spanish that we had was so good, who is incidentally a St. Andrew High School old girl. I didn't know that until I met her here. Heard that she was Miss Nicholson. She was so good at it. So I emulated her, wanted to be like her. And she decided at the end of 4th form she was going away to the nursing. And after that, the teacher we got was really a disaster. And so I changed to history. Possibly because my principal was a history teacher herself. She was a historian. And so at the end of 6th form, off I went to University of the West Indies. Of course, big thing, your country coming to town. That whole group of us, I think we were the largest group of girls from Hampton. Our 6th form, I think, was the largest 6th form. So we did a lot of things at school that were different. But a group of us came up, went to university, and did those history courses. At the end of that, those 3 years, with my degree, I went back home and actually taught at Glenmuir High for 2 years. And then after working for 2 years, you can get your study leave to get your diploma. Because I wanted to be a trained teacher.
That's diploma in education.
Diploma in education. So back to Kingston, to the university, and did my diploma. And then you had to practice teaching. And I can't tell you how I ended up at St. Andrew. But Miss Reader, incidentally, is from Maypen. Miss Reader's father, Reverend John F. Reader, was the minister at the church I grew up in Maypen for many years, must be 30-odd years. As a matter of fact, he is, I would think, the closest thing to a father that my father had, because my father's father died when he was, I think, 2 or 3 years old. And Reverend Reader played a great role in his life. So it was very interesting that I ended up at St. Andrew. And Miss Reader was then the principal. And she was a mentor to me in many ways. I admire Miss Reader for her sermon leadership. Anybody who knows Miss Reader knows that there is nothing too small for her to do. She was such an excellent teacher herself. But I was here, and Miss Ashmead, who was the vice principal, told me that they were very impressed with me and offered me a job the following year. So I didn't even have to go about applying for jobs or anything. Seems to have been providential that I should be here. So I started at St. Andrew as a teacher of history. Myrtle White was head of the history department, and it was interesting because she was left-handed, and Paulette Logan, who met at Louis when I came here, Paulette was already here. Of course, you know, Mrs. Logan later was one of my vice principals. She just went off on retirement. We were 3 left-handers in the history department, so we were proud of ourselves. Probably another interesting fact is that Miss Reader from Maypen, St. Gabriel's, Daily Report, also from Maypen and St. Gabriel's, and then I became principal after that. So they speak of the 3 R's. Reader, read, and report. I don't know how, you know, some things just happen, so we would laugh about that. Yes. But it seems to have been providential. I have enjoyed my years at St. Andrew. I can't tell you that I came here planning to be principal, or even that I came planning to stay so long. But then I also got married, and my husband is from Kingston. We met on campus. But we're just good friends. But somehow when I came back up to do my debate, you know how these things go. So then in 1983, I got married. And so that sort of cemented my stay in Kingston because Daddy wasn't going anywhere else anyway. And so St. Andrew, history department, did a lot of interesting things in the history department under Mrs. White's leadership. And then, of course, when she retired, I took over as head of department. And again, got an opportunity then, I suppose, to leave. But I was actually a senior teacher before that. I think I've been house mistress. Also was dean of discipline at one point. I think I've sort of worked in almost every area of the institution. I think that also put me in good stead. And then, of course, when Miss Ashley retired, I became vice principal. That was in 1995, I think, that I became vice principal. But then 2 years later, Mrs. Reid, wanting to do her doctorate, goes off on leave, and I become principal. Yvette Smith had been vice principal, both of us together, but then Yvette in 96, because if Yvette had been here, I'm sure things would have been different. But Yvette went down to St. Hugh's. She's Anglican, and the St. Hugh's needed a principal, so Yvette goes down in 96. So in 1997, I guess there was no choice. I just had to fit in. So I became acting principal, and I acted for 2 years and a term, so that Mrs. Reid would. And the plan was that when she came back, I was to then go off to do my master's. But then when she came back, she got the call to go to Excel. And so into the job I went. I would say providential. It wasn't a plan of mine at all. But it has been good.
Mrs. Reid, how would you describe your leadership style? You mentioned that Ms. Reid had a servant leadership style. How would you describe yours?
I would think I have been fortunate to be mentored by so many. I have a little of everything. I really, because the girls know this, there is nothing that I won't do to get things going on any given day. So yes, so the servant leadership. Then there is, I would think, from Mrs. Reid, Dr. Reid, the whole matter of visioning. I learned a lot from her. I remember her, I can hear her now saying to me, Sharon, when you are dreaming, dream big. Don't worry about whether it can happen or not. Just dream big. Then you can work out after, but don't let anything stop you. And I do believe that side to it, and a leader has to be a visionary, because you have to be seeing so much further ahead so that you can move things in the right direction. So there again, and then from my own principle, I know I have a very strong personality. I've had to learn to temper this over the years, but I do think being able to take a decision and stand by it, very, very important. And as a leader, I would say I am determined, and if I am convinced that this is the way to go, I have learned over the years to temper this. I can't force everybody, but I can certainly strongly influence you along that direction. So I would say I'm a combination of a lot of those who have impacted my own life over the years.
But I think also, based on my own personal experience with you, is that you also are good at mentoring some of your younger staff and getting them into experiencing other aspects of administration where you delegate very well in order to help them grow.
Right. I am very conscious that if the job is to be done, it cannot be done by any one person. And I also know that I don't have all the answers. And I'm just pleased with the young people that I work with, and especially in this technological age. So yes, and I do believe God-given, I seem to have a knack of just identifying, people's strengths. And I have been so blessed watching those young teachers grow and taking over and advising me. So I have my different advisors for different areas, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. Yes.
And of course, with your background in music, you have really kept the arts going very strongly in St. Andrew High. Performing arts department is very
right.
vital.
That was right. Actually, music and drama were attached to the English department, and as one grows as a leader, you realize at the end that whole area is one that needs focus, and so we separated. Can't remember what year now, but shortly after I took over. And we have been building. But St. Andrew, as a lot of those traditional schools, always had a strong, extracurricular program. So I think I'm standing on the shoulders of a lot of those who have gone before me. But music is so important for your development. And so I inherited from Mrs. Revolt. She used to play classical music in the mornings, and so we do that very quietly, very subtly, but it helps to just calm everybody down and get everybody focused in a way that I believe that they would even understand. I hear the girl say it's Mrs. Reid's music. That's okay. Mrs. Reid's music played, no problem. There are forces and it does affect the tone.
And finally, you have a mantra that you have instilled in the schools since you took over. Tell us about that.
Well, probably coming from the influence of school and then the mission, the school's mission. One of the things when we did the development plan, I recognized that it's not enough for the school to have their vision, mission statement, and not the students and teachers not in that. So everybody had to memorize it. And out of that, because that whole concept of order and the fourfold development, I remember one term being quite distressed at how out of control the girls seem. And there came that, that statement of purpose that we developed. And it ended with the phrase, as a St. Andrew High School young lady, I will conduct myself at all times with dignity and self-control.
With dignity
and self-control. And I would like to think that that is one of the hallmarks of St. Andrew High School young ladies.
Thank you. And we now take another break before we come back to some lighter